What's up guys, Shekinah Tabby here, aka Shay, and you are watching episode 18 of The Creative Quest. Before we jump into this episode, I want to make sure that I remind you all that if you haven't subscribed, to hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video and you like what's going on in the channel so far, make sure you like the video, comment, share it with your friends, all of that. So now that that's out of the way, let's jump into episode 18. And this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the never-ending balancing act of serving your audience and being true to yourself as a creator. Even though I haven't encountered a massive amount of success with my music yet, I still feel this tension. I still feel this pressure of trying to please people with my work, trying to make something that, you know, a bunch of people are gonna like, and questioning that and going in circles, and instead of just looking into myself and really finding out who I am as a creative person, who I am as a musician and an artist, and staying true to that and embracing that and being okay with that. At every stage of a artist's career, I think this tension is always present. This desire to please people and the desire to be liked and accepted is really a human desire, and so it can come through in some really nasty ways when you're a creative person, because you're exposing a very deep and intimate part of yourself through your work, and it can be very terrifying, and you can be wrestling with that subconsciously and not even realize it. So then when you do reach, you know, this big success, and, you know, I can't speak to that because I haven't experienced that, but I can imagine that that gets even harder because you've built up a reputation, you know, of what your sound is, and you've built up this fan base and this community around a specific sound. And, you know, when you feel like you're growing or moving past that, that tension can get even tighter and even more intense, because this fear of losing all of this progress just because you feel like you're evolving as an artist, and you're afraid, you know, what those people are going to think, and afraid of losing, you know, half or more of that community that you've built up, because you're wanting to change your sound, and you're wanting to be honest with where you are musically and how you're growing and how you're evolving. Especially if what you've built is paying you, you know, it's like your job now, you know, and that can be really scary because so much more than just artistic integrity hinges on that. So I can imagine how stressful that might be for someone, but I do think that it's possible to hold this tension in a delicate balance, and I think that it kind of comes in stages. For example, right now for me, being someone who hasn't built this ginormous, you know, successful career off of one sound, I'm still figuring out like what I'm capable of and kind of which direction I want to run in. And really, I think it's very, very important to stay true to yourself in the very beginning, to like find out who you are in the beginning, and to write music from an honest place right from the get-go. Because if you can write music from an honest place right from the get-go, you're practicing this honesty and you're practicing this authenticity that you can then carry into bigger success. And you already have a really good foundation of who you are, and you're already in tune with yourself. So you can navigate your internal changes a whole lot easier later on if you can build that foundation right from the get-go. And then, you know, you build your community and your fan base off of, you know, a very honest expression of who you are as a creative person, as an artist, musician, whatever. And their response is more authentic and more genuine that way, because they're not responding and embracing something that's not you. They're, you know, or some facade that you're putting forward. And most of the time, you know, people can see right through that. Most of the time people can sniff that out. But that way, like, the relationship that you're building with people who are responding to your music and your creativity is honest and genuine right from the beginning. And so I think that actually gives you a better chance of keeping those people around as you evolve as an artist. So because your relationship is genuine and honest from the beginning, as you change naturally as a person and as your creativity evolves as a musician, as an artist, people are going to be more likely to stick with you because they feel like they know you and they feel like they're connected to who you really are. And I feel like starting off your relationship with your audience that way gives it a chance to grow and gives them a chance to grow with you and evolve with you as your creativity is growing and changing. And with that, now that you have this foundation and, people are really liking what you're doing and it's very you and it's honest and genuine to who you are. And the most important thing is that do you love it? You have to make sure that you love what you're doing. Because if you don't love what you're doing, then you're not going to be able to keep doing it. And you're going to find yourself in an identity crisis where you really hate your sound and you hate yourself, and it's just really not a good thing to go through. So you want to make sure that, is this honest to who I am? Is this genuine? Is this something that I love doing? And that's going to help you remain on the path, as you start to evolve and change. A lot of this comes down to relationship. So relationship with yourself first, relationship with your creativity, your creative soul, and extending that out to other people and inviting them into that circle. This is a huge part of the artist's journey. Now you're entering into this relationship with other people around your creativity. You have to start to think about them too. So as you mature and as you grow and as you become more successful, you have to maintain that relationship with people. So that's why it's so important to establish yourself first and establish, what you like and what you love, and make sure you're doing what you love and make sure you're doing what you like, because that way you can continue to serve your audience from a genuine place. And you're not going to feel like you have to change yourself for them to please them. You've already established that you love what you're doing, they love what you're doing, and so the evolution of that is going to be something that you do together. It's going to be a whole lot easier for you to serve them and to give them stuff that they like and to provide experiences for them that they really like and they really love, because it's coming out of an honest place of who you are. That brings us to, it is important to serve your audience, but you have to serve them from a place of honesty and authenticity. Otherwise, you're just going to be frustrated and you're going to feel like you're hiding, and you're going to feel like you can't truly be who you are because nobody knows who you actually are, because you've built this whole thing off of a facade. So maybe your sound is changing and evolving and it's going a different direction than you started, but that's really genuine. You're like, no, this is I'm really changing, I'm really evolving, I'm really growing in this new direction, and you're kind of afraid of what your audience is going to think. Be honest with them. Jump on social media or shoot out an email or do a little clip of a song and be like, hey guys, so my sound is really evolving and changing and I'm really feeling like I want to go this direction, and I just want to see what you guys think of this, because I really need to stay true to who I am as I'm growing in my creativity, and I know maybe not all of you will like this, but I want to throw it out there and get some feedback or something. That's an option, but just inviting your audience into that process is going to mean the world to them, and they're going to respect that and they're going to love that because they love you. Now, if you're just, hiding out and you're in the shady little corner and you just come out with this album that's way off the wall, it's going to shock them. I don't think that's wrong. I just think that comes with some consequences that you have to be prepared to handle. I know a lot of artists that have done that, like Underoath. That whole thing about Underoath that happened. This is a perfect example of this. So Underoath built this audience off of this one particular sound. Then they went away for, years. And then all of a sudden they come back and they're going to do a new record, and everybody's expecting Underoath to be the same. That makes sense because the only thing that they've heard from Underoath is what they were in the early 2000s. However, I remember watching the documentary about this process. I also read a variety of interviews and watched some YouTube videos. And, they were saying, we were gone for several years and we're different people than we were back then, and now we're coming back together and people expect us to be the same people that we were back then. That's an unrealistic expectation because people change, and as people change, so does creativity, so does the artistic expression. As the person changes, their artistic expression is also going to change. And just remember them saying that's a really unfair pressure to put on a band, is to expect them to be the same all the way through their career. In my opinion, I think that's a very immature way to go about creativity, is to try to keep everything the same. I think it's a really, really good way to be a really boring band or a boring artist, is to do the same thing over and over and over again. Now, I think there is a season for certain things, like a couple albums can sound similar, but eventually you gotta grow. I think it's the people who genuinely connect with the honest expression of who you are that are going to stick with you through the whole journey, because they're a fan of you, not just your music, but who you are, and they really want to be part of that journey. They want to grow with you. I think part of what makes a really good artist is, can they continue to connect with their audience through the evolution of their creativity? Like, can they create an environment where their fans feel a part of what they're doing and can grow with them? Like, how do they cultivate that? And I think that those artists and those kind of creative people are going to have very successful careers. They may not blow up overnight. They may not, be Katy Perry or someone like that. You don't necessarily have to be that, but they're going to have a career that lasts. They're going to have something that's sustainable because they're able to really connect with people in a genuine, honest way through all of the stages of their career and their evolution as an artist. For audience members, for those of you out there that may be just consumers of music, I think this is important for y'all to understand too. Like, there are people behind this work. There's a life. There are real human beings, flesh and blood, behind the music you're listening to. There's a brain, there's a heart, there's a soul, there's a mind, that is going through a life, that is experiencing different things, and they're growing older and they're gaining more experience, and you can't expect them to stay the same. And it's very unfair to expect them to stay the same. It's very unfair to put this kind of pressure on an artist and on a band to continue to be what they were for you when you were 13, 14 years old. Like, if you want to be reminded of that band, listen to their old records. Listen to their old records, but let them be human. Let them be true artists, and let them evolve and let them grow, and encourage them and support them through that. Even if you're not a fan of the sound, you can move on from that band and find something else. But don't bash them online, and don't say really crappy things about them and about how their new stuff sucks, because it's not true. And that's just being a really shitty person. Like, that's just being a jerk. Artists really don't want those kind of people around them that are going to tear them down. Artists need people that are going to build them up, because what they're doing is really hard and difficult and very vulnerable. And so they need that support to be able to do what they're doing. So if you don't like something, that's okay. You can move on, but don't comment about it and say it sucks and, be a jerk about it. Just move on to something else. If you're a loyalist to the artist and you really love the artist and what they're about, then continue to support them, and continue to buy their stuff, even if it's not your favorite. Like, for me, I love Paramore. And I will always be a Hayley Williams fan no matter what. I'm not a huge fan of the new stuff they've been putting out. I'll listen to it because I love Hayley, and I'm a fan of Hayley Williams, and I'm still a fan of her work and her as an artist. And so I continue to follow and watch and listen. Even though what I have on repeat is most of the time their old stuff, I'll still pop in and listen to their new stuff just to see where they're going and what they're doing. And if they come to a town near me, I'm going to go see the show. Even if it's going to be mostly new stuff, I'm still going to come, because I love the people. I love the artist here, and not just the product that they're putting out there that I'm consuming. I feel very connected to the artist on a personal level because of the role that they played in my life when I was younger. All of this to say, the delicate balance between serving your audience and staying true to yourself is a difficult balance to achieve, but it's possible to achieve it. And the most important thing in that balancing act is making sure that you're honest with yourself, and that your expression that you're putting out there is honest and genuine right from the get-go, so that as you evolve and change and transition, this balancing act doesn't have to be so stressful. Going about it in a way that it invites people to be part of this journey and this process, And because when people feel shut out and feel rejected, you know, they're going to be defensive. And so when you create an environment where, you know, your fans feel shut out and your fans feel kind of rejected, then they're going to defend themselves. They're going to respond in a defensive way to what you put out if it's not what they expected or were hoping for. I think it's just important to remember that your listeners, you have a relationship with them, and to treat it like a relationship, and to make sure that you're doing good work on yourself, but also remembering that there are other people involved in the process, and that it was you in the first place that invited them into that process, and not be too selfish with the process, but to be open about it in a way that is healthy for you and healthy for them, and can benefit the growth of the community and benefit the growth of your art and your career as you go along. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today here in episode 18. And next week we're going to have a special guest on board, a really good friend of mine named Julian Stans, who's part of a local band here called With Bravado. Ooh, With Bravado. I gotta say that right. And he also plays guitar for another band called Sleeping Seasons. And he's a really, really great guy. And I wanted to bring him on the show and get his perspective about what creativity means to him, have him talk a little bit more about his creative journey. So, and then after that, we're going to be digging into a new season with this show to wrap up the year. That's going to be all about audio and gear, and my husband's going to be a guest during those handful of episodes and giving you guys an inside look on what we use here in the studio, and also a little bit about how he thinks about the role of gear and production in the creative process. So really excited to talk to these guys about those things, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it and you're going to find value in those conversations. So stay tuned. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment, share it with your friends if you found this interesting and valuable. And I will see you guys next week right here on The Creative Quest.